If you're doing research, writing papers, or just trying to keep up with academic work, you've probably noticed how fast AI tools are improving. And today, I want to show you something a little fun, a list of free AI tools that honestly feel almost unfair to use. The kind of tools that make you stop and think, wait, this is actually free? If you're in academia or research, these can save you a huge amount of time. So let's start with the foundation, because before you use any of the other tools, you really need a solid large language model. Right now, one of the best free options available is Gemini. This is Google's AI model, and it's surprisingly powerful for a free tool. It can help you brainstorm ideas, summarize papers, explain complex concepts, and assist with writing in a way that feels very natural. What also stands out is that Gemini doesn't just handle text well. It's actually quite good when it comes to generating images and working across different types of content, which makes it very useful if you're preparing presentations, research visuals, or anything that needs a bit more than just words. Gemini is one of those tools that really surprised me when I started testing it. What you're looking at here is actually the free version, and I haven't upgraded to anything paid. Even so, the amount of features you get is honestly impressive. You still get access to deep research tools, image generation, and several creative options that can be surprisingly useful for academic work. For example, you can generate visuals, experiment with canvas-style layouts, and even create music if that somehow fits into your project. Not every researcher will need those things, of course, but it shows how flexible the platform really is. One feature that really caught my attention is something that sits right on the edge of what AI can do for research right now. Gemini can actually create a graphical abstract from a research paper. If you've worked in academia before, you know that journals often ask for a graphical abstract that visually summarizes the core idea of your work. Normally, this takes a lot of time because you have to design the layout yourself and make sure the elements communicate the idea clearly. So I tested Gemini by pasting in one of my own abstracts to see what it would do. Within a few moments, it generated a visual summary that was actually usable. The layout made sense, the structure looked clean, and the main concept of the research was clear. Now it wasn't perfect. Some details still needed checking. For example, one of the components in the diagram wasn't placed exactly where it should have been. That's why it's still important to review anything AI produces. But the key point is that the heavy lifting was already done. Instead of starting from scratch, you already have something you can refine and improve. Gemini is also surprisingly strong when it comes to literature reviews. I asked it to create a literature review on OPV devices and to highlight the most important papers in the field. It produced a structured explanation of how the technology evolved and pointed out several key studies that shaped the research area. What I really like is that the results can be exported directly into a sheet, which means you instantly get a reading list. For anyone starting a new research topic, that is incredibly useful. It helps you see the important papers, understand the main ideas in the field, and quickly identify the challenges researchers are still trying to solve. Now let's move to the next tool, and this one feels a little more serious and academic. The tool is called Aster, and it comes from the Allen Institute. You can access it at aster.allen.ai, and the moment you open it, you'll notice that it focuses directly on the kind of work researchers actually do every day. What's interesting is that this platform used to have several separate tools, but they have now combined everything into a single place. The result is a system that helps you do three main things: find research papers, generate reports, and analyze data. And honestly, those three tasks cover a huge portion of what academic researchers spend their time doing. One of the most surprising things about Aster is that it's completely free. When you explore the platform, there isn't even an option to upgrade or pay for extra features. You simply use the tool as it is, which is honestly refreshing when so many platforms try to push you towards subscriptions. To test it, I asked it to find research papers related to OPV devices. As the system runs, you can actually watch it analyze your request. It tries to understand the intent behind the question and then decides what kind of papers it should search for. After that, it begins scanning for the most relevant studies in the field. Within a short time, it returns a list of key papers that match your topic. That alone is extremely helpful when you are entering a new research area and need a quick starting point. But the tool goes further than that. You can also explore new topics through its discovery features, generate reports based on a scientific question, or even analyze datasets. These are all tasks that researchers normally spend a lot of time doing manually, so having them organized in one place makes the process much smoother. Another thing I really like is how the results are displayed. On one side, you see the papers that were found, and they are clearly ranked by relevance. Some are marked as perfectly relevant, others as relevant, and some as somewhat related to your query. That simple classification makes it much easier to focus on the most important studies first. You also get useful filters like publication year, venue, and author, which are essential if you want to narrow down the best research quickly. Perhaps the most valuable feature is the evidence view. When you click it, the system shows you the exact section of the paper that supports why it appeared in the search results. This helps you immediately understand the context of the study without reading the entire document first. Overall, for a completely free tool, Aster is incredibly powerful. It helps you find research faster, organize important papers, and explore scientific questions in a much more structured way. Honestly, I think more researchers should be using it. Another free AI tool that I strongly recommend for anyone doing research is Semantic Scholar. It is simple, powerful, and completely free, which is why it almost feels unfair to use. Semantic Scholar is an AI-powered search engine built specifically for scientific literature. In fact, many other AI research tools actually rely on data from Semantic Scholar in the background. So my thinking is always this: if so many tools depend on it, why not just go straight to the source? When you open the website, you can search through millions of academic papers from many different scientific fields. As you start typing your topic, the system quickly suggests relevant studies. For example, if you type something like transparent electrodes, it immediately shows papers related to optoelectronic devices and other connected research. Everything is organized clearly, with authors, references, and publication details easy to access. One feature I really like is the related papers section. You can start with one strong paper and then explore outward to discover more studies connected to that topic. This makes literature exploration much faster and more natural. You can also preview figures and important parts of the paper before opening the full PDF, which saves a lot of time when scanning research. Overall, Semantic Scholar is one of those tools that quietly does an amazing job. Many people start their search using flashy AI apps, but sometimes going directly to a powerful research database like this is actually the smartest and fastest way to find the papers you truly need. Research Rabbit is one of those free tools that almost feels unfair once you start using it. Last year, it received a big redesign, and the platform now looks cleaner and easier to explore. The great thing is that most of the important features are completely free. There are a few paid options if you want extra features, but for normal research work, the free version already does a lot. When you first open it, you can add what is called a seed paper. This is simply one paper related to your topic. From that single paper, Research Rabbit begins building a network of related studies around it. Instead of showing a boring list of results like a normal database, it creates a visual graph of papers that connect to each other. Some of them cite the original paper, while others are closely related in topic. This makes it much easier to see how the research field is connected. One feature I really like is that you can change how the graph is displayed by adjusting the X and Y axis. For example, you can view papers based on how recently they were published or how often they are cited. When you click on a paper, a small panel appears with a quick summary and useful links. You can also see similar references or the papers that cited it later. If you click the Cited by option, the tool opens a new layer of connected papers. Suddenly, you are exploring a much bigger part of the research landscape. It really feels like falling into a rabbit hole of knowledge, which honestly makes the tool kind of fun to use. Another small detail I appreciate is how easy it is to return to your previous searches. At the top of the interface, there is a little rabbit icon that shows your past explorations. With one click, you can jump back and continue exploring from where you left off. Overall, Research Rabbit is an incredibly useful tool for discovering research papers, expanding your knowledge, and finding connections between studies that you might never see in a normal search engine. Now, let me show you another AI tool that I honestly use almost every single day. Out of all the free tools I've tested, this is probably the one I open the most. Anytime I have a big document that I need to understand quickly, this is where it goes. If I have a collection of research papers, reports, or even a bunch of articles that I want to make sense of, I simply upload them into this tool and let it help me break everything down. The tool I'm talking about is Notebook LM, and I absolutely love it. The way it works is surprisingly simple, but also incredibly powerful. You start by adding sources. These can be PDFs, research papers, notes, or any material you want to analyze. Once the sources are added, Notebook LM reads through them and creates a smart workspace around your information. In the center, you get a summary of the content, and from there, you can start asking questions, exploring ideas, and digging deeper into the topic without having to manually search through hundreds of pages. What makes this tool really impressive is the number of features it gives you completely free. You can generate summaries, ask questions about your sources, connect ideas across multiple documents, and even create visual explanations of the information. For students, researchers, or anyone working with academic material, this can save an incredible amount of time. But whenever we talk about free tools like this, there is one important thing to remember. If a tool is free, you should always ask how the company behind it actually makes money. There is an old saying in tech that if you are not paying for the product, you might actually be the product. Sometimes that means the platform collects usage data, or it may eventually show you ads or promote other services. Because of that, you should avoid uploading anything sensitive or private. Always take a moment to check the terms of service and the privacy policy so you understand how your data might be used. That being said, for normal academic work where you are analyzing public research papers or published information, tools like this are extremely helpful. One feature I really enjoy is the infographic generation. I once uploaded more than 20 sources and asked Notebook LM to create a visual explanation of the key ideas, and the result was honestly brilliant. It took complex information and turned it into something clear and easy to understand. Another great feature is the number of sources you can add. You can upload up to around 50 references into one workspace, which is more than enough for most research projects. You can even search the web for additional sources directly inside the tool, which helps you build a strong knowledge base around your topic. Instead of jumping between dozens of tabs, everything stays organized in one place. That is exactly why I keep coming back to Notebook LM again and again. It is simple, powerful, and incredibly useful. And just to be clear, this is not sponsored. I just genuinely think it is one of the best free AI tools available right now. Now let's look at another tool that might feel like a bit of a wild card, but I honestly think it can be extremely useful for research and academic life. The tool is called Goblin Tools. It's basically a collection of small and simple tools designed for moments when things feel too big, too messy, or too complicated to deal with. And if you've ever worked on a PhD or any serious research project, you know that feeling very well. Sometimes the work can feel overwhelming before you even start. One feature I really like is called Magic To Do. The idea is simple. If you have a big task that feels impossible to begin, you can type it into the tool and it will break it down into smaller steps. For example, if you type something like "do a PhD," the tool will immediately start generating a structured list of steps. Suddenly, you can see everything involved, from choosing a research area to reviewing literature, designing studies, collecting data, and writing the final thesis. Seeing it broken down like that actually helps you understand the process instead of feeling lost. It reminds you that big goals are really just many small steps put together. Goblin Tools also includes other small helpers that can be surprisingly useful. There's a feature called Formalizer that can transform the tone of your text, which is helpful if you want something to sound more academic or professional. There's also a tool called Judge that can analyze text and help you understand the emotional tone behind it. Another feature I like is the Explain tool. If you paste in a concept or idea that seems confusing, the tool will explain it in a simpler way so you can understand it better. And there is also a Brain Dump tool, which is honestly one of my favorites. Sometimes your mind is full of ideas, tasks, worries, and half-finished thoughts. You can just write everything down without organizing it, and the tool will turn that messy list into clear actions and tasks. For researchers and students, that kind of clarity can make a huge difference. Overall, Goblin Tools feels like a small but incredibly thoughtful tool. It helps reduce stress, organize your thoughts, and break down complicated work into manageable pieces. And the best part is that it's completely free, which makes it even more valuable for students and academics who are already juggling a lot. If you often feel overwhelmed by big projects or complex research tasks, this is definitely a tool worth checking out. If you enjoy discovering powerful AI tools like the ones we looked at today, then I've got another video that you're definitely going to love. In that video, I walk through some of the best AI tools you can use in 2026, including both free options and a few paid ones that are honestly worth every penny if you're serious about productivity, research, or building smarter workflows. Some of those tools can completely change the way you work, learn, and organize information. So if this video helped you find something new, go check out that next video on the screen. I think you'll find a few more tools there that feel just as powerful as the ones we talked about today.